What's the word? 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 What's the word on that movie? What's the word? 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 What's the word on that movie? This is part 2. Welcome to What's the Word on That Movie podcast play-by-play. I am your host, Daniel Lawrence. On this episode, I am discussing Good Boys. What's the Word on That Movie can be found on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. Other platforms coming soon, as well as video. Twitter handle is at What's the Word on 2. First letters of each word capitalized, and yes, that is the number 2. Instagram is What's the Word on That Movie, all lowercase, no spaces, and Snapchat is What's the Word on That Movie. What's has an apostrophe S, and the first letter of each word is capitalized, and each word is spaced out. Or try Lawrence Media 1, all lowercase, no spacing, and yes, that is the number 1. YouTube is What's the Word on That Movie. Each word is spaced out with caps at the beginning of each word, and What's has an apostrophe S. Let's get to it. After at school, the boys decided they must skip school, get to the mall, and buy another drone, but first they must get the money. They decide to sell their most valuable trading card. They head to Thor's house to sell the card to a guy who responded to buy it and instead back out of the sale, but sell the guy Thor's dad's CPR doll, which the guy knows is a sex doll. After the sale, the boys head out. They run into the older girls again and a chase begins. The boys are on their bikes. One girl gets out of the car and pursues on foot. The other stays in the car and swings around. Lucas gets hurt in the chase and dislocates his arm. The girls flee the scene. The boys flee the scene as well and must pop Lucas's arm back into place. They use the internet on how to perform the procedure and are able to pop it back into place. Upon helping Lucas back to his feet, his shoulder is dislocated once more. Poor Lucas. At this point in the movie, you can tell Lucas is tired of following Max around. He has had enough of these shenanigans and is about ready to give up and head home. The boys once more pop Lucas's arm back into place, and then they head to a convenience store to get Lucas some Tylenol. A cop enters the store and the boys try not to draw attention to themselves, but in an attempt, they draw all the attention to themselves. Lucas snitches, immediately telling the cop that they skipped school. The cop tells them normally he would call it in, but since they were so honest, he is going to let them slide if they don't do it again. The boys thank him. Thor gets caught trying to steal a beer and the cop asks him to put it back. This is when Lucas blurts out, "We also have drugs with intent to distribute." The cop is annoyed at this point, tells the kids these are vitamins. But then Lucas is upset the cop let them off and isn't doing his job. Lucas reassures him those are drugs, the cop takes them so the kids will shut up. While the cop is on the phone, the boys make a run for it and lock the cop in the convenience store. The boys then make their way to the mall. They have to cross the highway to get there, 6 lanes of highway to be exact. Thor reveals he has stolen another beer. As the boys make their way across the first 3 lanes, they stop in the middle to argue, not realizing the traffic is no longer being held up, and they must now cross the last 3 lanes in normal flowing traffic speed. Max makes a mad dash for it and is successful. Lucas makes a mad dash for it and is successful as well. Thor makes a mad dash and drops his beer. Stops to go back for it. The other 2 boys go after him to get him, and they cause a pileup on the highway as cars crash to avoid hitting the boys. After arriving to the mall to buy the drone to replace the one they destroyed, they found out the girls that they got the drugs from beat them there and have purchased the drone and want their drugs back in return for the drone. The saleswoman instructs the boys to meet the girls in the parking garage. In the parking garage, a deal is hashed out between the boys and the 2 older girls. Drugs for the drone. Problem is, the boys gave the drugs to a cop. New deal. The boys must go to purchase drugs from the girls' supplier. They are driven by the girls to a frat house in which the boys enter to purchase drugs. The boys are turned away as the dealer says he is not selling to kids. Curious as to who sent the boys, the dealer questions them. Lucas snitches like a punk, and the dealer refuses to do business. Max flips and whips out a paintball gun, demanding the drugs be given to him. Max lets the dealer have it, as well as his frat brothers. Thor joins in on the action by hitting a guy with a paddle, but doesn't last long as he's punched in the face and placed on the ground. Lucas grabs the drugs off the floor and helps Thor up. Max continues to spray as they retreat and escape the frat house. The boys held up their end of the deal, so the girls do the same and trade the drone for the drugs. Max is happy, but Thor and Lucas are disappointed at all things they have done in order to get the drone. Max gets a call from his dad letting him know that he is coming home early and is almost there. Max has to fly the drone home before his dad gets home. He is able to fly at home, but flying a drone in a house is not the best thing, especially when you can't see where you are flying. He is able to return it to the home base, but destroys the house doing so. It is so bad that his dad calls him and doesn't even tell him he loves Max after Max says, "Dad, I love you." The boys get in an argument about how they are growing apart. Max really gets it when he gets home. His dad is ripping him a new one, and while doing so, he tells Max, "You are no longer allowed to call me Dad," and wants Max to refer to him by his legal name. Lucas snitches as soon as he gets home, but his parents believe Lucas just wants attention because of the divorce. They instruct him it's okay for you and your friends to grow apart. It's not as bad as it seems because people change and grow apart. Later, after Lucas talks with his parents, he shows up at Max's house and encourages Max to sneak out and go to the kissing party. Thor is awaiting the boys at the party and they team back up for another ride. "Party in the basement, y'all." The mother answers the door and tells the boys there's a party in the basement and she has no clue what is going on down there. There's always that one lenient set of parents. In the basement, Max is introduced to his love interest and gives her the necklace he promised her friend he would give her. This necklace happens to be Thor's mom's anal beads. Thor attempts the beer sip record, a groundbreaking 4 sips. He does it. He now calls himself an alcoholic in honor of what he did. Everyone celebrates his accomplishment. Spin the bottle begins and Lucas immediately backs out to go upstairs and play VR. Thor backs out as well once he crumbles beneath the pressure of having the bottle stop on him. Max stays and kisses his girl and they establish themselves as boyfriend and girlfriend. Lucas and Thor hang out with the older girls upstairs that they bought the drugs for. One of the girls happens to be one of the popular boys' older sister. They ask Thor to sing for them after he mentions he loves singing. This leads to a montage of the boys' lives after that night. They are now leading their new lives on different paths. Max is experiencing heartbreak after heartbreak as he is in and out of relationships. Lucas is leading the Scabs. Thor is singing and practicing for his big performance. Singing ends with Thor's performance and an after party where the boys come together once more to talk about the new things they are experiencing. It's been 30 days and Max is on his 3rd girl. Lucas has his new friends he plays video games with. Thor has his new crew. The boys hug it out as they miss one another. Beanbag boys for life, you know. Max says he will miss most of the small stuff, but hey, let's be there for the big stuff. Before splitting and going their separate ways, Thor wants to show the guys something really cool. He shows the boys his parents' sex swing. They don't know what it is and of course not knowing decide to take it for a swing. They're having a blast until Thor's little sister walks in and says, "It's a swing for sex stuff." Movie ends. Now you know why I relate this movie to a movie such as Superbad, or even the movie Tag, which was a fantastic movie. Good Boys is worth watching over and over. It delivers on hilarity. What I like most about this movie is the development of the characters throughout the entirety of the film. I am able to relate to these boys on some level as I was once a preteen, and at some point I think we all face these changes and growth in life with experimentation, as well as the growing apart of friendships. Go see this movie. I give it an A+. Thanks for tuning in to What's the Word on That Movie podcast play-by-play. I am your host, your voice, Daniel Lawrence, and I will see you next time.